Well, hi all and welcome back to the shed. In my last video on the automated transmission here, I showed you basically pulling out everything from inside the housing here to get to the wave spring, which is seated down around the groove down here. Actually, I was just looking there, even down there you can see there's been some damage. You may not be able to there, but there's been some damage from the wave spring. Okay, now that wave spring does break into little short pieces about this long. The transmission, this one here, it had one short piece about that long and then some longer bits as well. And the problem with those short bits, they can get up into the oil filter. So today basically I'm going to show you what to do about that oil filter. Now I don't have an oil filter here. The last one I had came out of this box and I broke it apart so I could check for bits of spring inside of it. The oil filter sits down inside of here basically where my hand is, and it acts as the oil pickup and then goes straight from the filter, from my understanding, what I can gather, straight to the oil pump in the transmission. My process was to do, I had everything out of here, was to bolt the end cap back onto the transmission here and then flip it over, take the bell housing off to change the oil filter. So basically that's what we're going to be doing today. Okay, so everything's out of that. I haven't put anything back into that housing there, and all I'm doing is putting that back on, making sure it is centered and seated properly though. I had it the first time there we go. There is the O-rings that are in here. You need to make sure that either A, you take them out at this point, or B, you make sure they're very well seated. I've got an O-ring in there that's damaged. So if I was to reuse this transmission, I would have to replace that O-ring. Basically, there's 3 O-rings help operate the system, obviously. Okay, so I'm just going to put that back on, and then I'll be flipping the transmission over so I can do the other side. So basically, put it back on so nothing else falls inside of that. There we go. So I'll just do those up. I'm just watching now. I've got my tripod right next to that. There you go. Okay, alright, so I'm going to shut the camera down. I'm going to flip this over, show you with the bell housing coming off. So we're back. Okay, so we're back. So I've got it upside down, and we're ready to take the bell housing off. Now around within the inside of the bell housing and around the outside, there's 20 bolts to take out. Now I've already got them, most of them out. I've got 4 left, and I've slackened them off anyway. So I'm just going to whip those 4 bolts out. They're a 14mm headed bolt, and they will be done up pretty tight if it's straight from the factory. Even if it's from Rico, they'll be very, very tight. They take a bit of doing. Just get those. Funny, this transmission's got some nickel pin writing inside of there. I have no idea what it's for. All the sealant that's in here looks like it's straight from the factory, so it doesn't look like it's ever been apart. And so this one had done 160,000 kilometres around thereabouts. Okay, so I've got those bolts out, and you'll need to find some pry points. There are some pry points, so you can lift the bell housing up off there. It will be stuck. This one's been apart and it still gets stuck into place there because there's a fitting around there. There's a rubber seal around there on the inside of it, and it also got your transaxles there as well. So it takes a little bit to get that out. Find the points. There we go. Let's see if I can get that off now. So I made that look pretty easy to come out, but it actually takes quite an amount when it's fresh and new. Okay, so there's your differential transaxle gears, and as I say, there are multiple, these bits of wave spring break up into multiple short lengths like that one there. Basically at the change of each direction of that spring, there's a change of direction there and there. They break into segments in between there. So this one here, it would break off a piece that long there. So often when you're changing the transmission fluid, if you're having this problem, you might get a piece out with that. So you need to pull this apart. One, to do the oil filter. Two, I found one of these pieces jammed up and around the housing here, bent up. It looked like it had gone through the gears and bent up in there. That transmission that I fixed up that time still did 40,000 kilometres. So the oil filter normally resides just in here, and it slots into that hole there. There's an O-ring and flips into there, and there's a fitting that comes around and boom, straight into there. It just clips into place basically. So you just take the old one out. It's plastic, it's sealed. I broke mine up and cut open the sock so I could see what pieces there were left in there. Make sure I got all the bits and pieces of Wave Spring out. Basically, if you to know, they got it all out. That one there, if you look at that, goes around there. Basically the Wave Spring does 1, 2 laps around and pulls up short about here somewhere. So and that's how long it should be. So I put my oil filter apart to check to see where I've got everything, and check all around in the gears, absolutely everywhere you can see. The ones that I've done so far, I've not pulled the oil pump out. The manual can tell you to pull the oil pump out, and the clutch packs that are behind are all there, and of course you've got the valve gear all in there as well. But the ones that I've pulled apart so far, all the bits of Wave Spring have been down here, and obviously got through here somewhere and landed up the top here somewhere, bent up. So that's basically it. That's what it looks like. Once you got your oil filter out and you put the new one back in, the book says use a 3mm wide bead around all the sealing surfaces around here and around each of the bolt holes. Last time I did one, I used that 3-bond there, super sealer. It's an RTV silicon. It's a form-in-place gasket maker, so that's the type of thing from the factory that gets used in that. Okay, once you've done that, got that all the way around there, there's an O-ring here, there's an O-ring here, and inside the housing for this bearing there'll be a bearing cup, and there's like a thrust washer between the bearing cup and the housing as well. Okay, that's basically it. Do all that. Okay, so inside there's the bearing cup in there. Normally that'll stay in place but may fall out. If it comes out, there's a little washer underneath that to seat the bearing in, and there's your speedo drive gear there as well. Okay, once got all that, there is, as well as those 2 little seals around the outside here, there's a rubber seal there as well. So make sure there's a bit of transmission fluid on that rubber seal so it slides back into place without damaging the seal, and you're good to go. So that all goes back together like that. You need to be careful that goes into place nicely. It should go in without too much of a bother or force. Once you've got that oil pump in, don't forget to put the oil filter in. All good. And then if you're doing this for good, for real, for yourself, don't forget to put the 20 bolts back into place and do them up. Now like I said, I'm not a mechanic. I didn't worry about set torque. I did mine up tight, and that was my torque. Okay, and that's about it for that. Just a final little addition I forgot to mention. Once before you put that on, and when you go to put your new gasket sealant on, don't forget you need to clean out all the other gasket sealant that's already there. You need to get it out of the threads, you need to get it off the surfaces, and you need to clean your surfaces with something to get rid of all the fluid, transmission fluid, oil of that as well. I use a bit of thinners around the outside edge. You could use a silicone remover, anything that's going to get rid of all the oil off the surfaces, so you've got a nice clean bond for the sealant to go into place. Follow the instructions on your tube. That's probably the best direction there. Okay, once again, thanks for watching.